Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I want to introduce everybody to Chris Foster, VP of New Business at Modern Postcard. That is a national direct marketing company that services businesses of all sizes and in all markets. He is passionate about helping any size business craft marketing and branding strategies to better engage their audience. In addition to leading and the creation of and execution of new business strategies at Modern, he continues to teach brand strategy at UC San Diego Extension since 2009. Chris is a contributing author for Target Marketing Magazine and Nonprofit Pro, and has hosted webinars just like this one and presented at numerous professional conferences nationally. Thank you so much for joining us, Chris. I'm so excited for our retention strategy to engage and keep customers webinar that you are going to be hosting today. So I'm going to go ahead and hand over the reins to you.
Fantastic. Well, welcome in, everybody. Thanks so much for having me, Melissa, and so privileged to be a part of the Green Robe team on presenting this webinar. So thank you so much, everybody, for attending. We're going to go ahead and jump in. I'm going to share my screen, and can everybody see it? Are we good? Yes, I'm assuming that.
Yes, it looks great.
All righty, so here's what I'm going to do, folks. I'm going to go ahead and turn my video off. That way the bandwidth is better. And then after the webinar, I'll turn my video back on for Q&A and the like. For housekeeping, if you have questions, go ahead and put that through. I know the team at Green Rope is going to monitor the chat and the questions. It's probably best if I do questions at the end. That way we can get the flow through, unless there's something pertinent and crazy and you have to know now. Melissa can stop me and I'll stop and make sure that I address the question. All right, so I'm going to stop my video and I will catch you on the flip side. Fantastic. Here we go. Retention strategies for small or any size business. It's a kind of a funny thing when people talk about small business. SBA.gov says a small business is any business under 200 employees. Well, I know I kind of think that it's a little bit different than that. In my experience, small business is probably under 20, maybe 15. There apparently, 80% of businesses out there are going to be the small businesses. And these retention strategies work great for small business. But guess what? They also work great for mid-market and for enterprise businesses too. However, so, designed for small business, this can apply to any size business that you're in. I am Chris Foster. I am VP of New Business Development at Modern Postcard, and Melissa said too, I'm also an instructor at UCSD Extension. I teach brand strategy and positioning. You can always reach me, cfoster@modernpostcard.com. It's easy to put together, and I'm really glad and honored to be a part of this show. And this is the first of 3. So this is our summer marketing webinar series, where we are teaming up with the great folks at Green Rope. And the whole goal of this marketing webinar series is to help you as business grow through marketing ideas and through various, not only theory, but more importantly, practices. What are some practical hands-on things you can learn from a marketing perspective to help grow your business? The timing is perfect. Hopefully the economy is going to be warming up a bit. There are various stages of recovery for different businesses and industries. Now's the time to really prepare that marketing plan and to get in front of your customer group. Today, we're going to talk about retention strategies, so critical, especially now to hold on to your existing customers and develop that relationship. In June 24th, about a month or so away, we're going to do storytelling for business. I'm going to tease that a little bit today and give you a little bit of a small preview on it. But storytelling for business is one of the most effective and simplest ways to communicate with your customer base, whether they're existing customers, leads, or prospects. And then the last one is going to be integrating the marketing channels. We'll be able to build from what we talk about in retention strategies, think about how you tell stories to your existing, and then your leads and your prospects. And then finally, how do you integrate all those marketing channels together to have a cohesive story that you tell your customers? So that's going to be the play, summer marketing webinar series. Go ahead and share this with your colleagues and other teammates, and looking forward to seeing you on the upcoming presentations. So let's jump in. So we're going to do this in 3 acts. Act 1, setting the stage. When the earth shakes, hold on to something, right? Because boy, what a shock, right? And especially now for small businesses, after the last year plus, the best thing to do is to hold on to something, right? If the ground starts to quake and the earth starts to shake and the building starts to rattle, you got to hold on to something. And for a business, what you can hold on to is your existing customers. Hold on to that base of existing customers. And the data proves it out too. Most small businesses indicate over half of their revenue comes from existing customers. And the Pareto Principle shows that 80% of your profits, not just your revenue, but your profits come from just 20% of your customers. And on average, loyal customers are worth up to 10x as much as their first purchase, right? So the existing customers that you have are the base of the business that you want to grow from. Of course, everyone knows it's a cliche, but that's why the cliches are cliches. A satisfied customer is the best business strategy of all. Making sure those customers are happy, making sure they fall in love with you, making sure your team falls in love with your customers. That's basic, 101. So beyond that, though, a satisfied customer, of course, is the best business strategy, but there are certain things that you need to do to cultivate that customer base and retain those folks. Now, the one thing, of course, is that when you satisfy your customers, that pays dividends. So you could consider a retention strategy, that wonderful customer experience. 90% of purchases are influenced by positive reviews. This is especially true with Generation Z, and I'll touch on this a little bit later in the presentation. But Generation Z is really important for everyone to pay attention to. In 2026, Generation Z will be the largest consumer group. They are going to be ready to spend their money. They're going to be out getting jobs. They're going to be huge. So the question is, what are their primary characteristics? What are their behaviors? What are their trends? What are the things that they're doing so that you can tap in to Generation Z and make sure that you're getting their share of attention and their share of wallet? And so one of them, of course, is the positive reviews and the great experiences. And so these customers that you have, the ones that you pull in and the ones that you satisfy, the ones that you fall in love with, these are the folks that hold the very two keys. And human beings are human beings. In the age of normal referrals, where someone talks to someone else, the customers hold two keys. The key to more orders, clearly, because they come back to you, but also to new customers, right? Referrals, the thing that drives new customers. It's one of the best and least expensive ways to get a new customer is the great referral from your existing customers. Of course, we all know that these are not normal times. We're recovering slowly, but man, it's so crazy when you look at photos of Times Square, you look at photos of New York, and even now, with folks not necessarily walking to work and working from home, millions of people are not walking around New York City. So it's not normal times, and referrals are different. The whole landscape has changed in terms of making sure that you can connect. And now more than ever before in recent memory, we need to adapt to survive. Every business does. So this was taken last year. A sharp shock to the system requires new thinking. So this was about April 2020. Nothing in recent business memory compares to the rapid and radical adjustment of March 2020. Look at this. This is so crazy. This is the percentage change in the number of hours worked by hourly small business employees. And this was from San Fran, Seattle, Pittsburgh, my hometown, in Boston. But look at that percentage drop right around March 11th, March 12th, it starts to decay, and boom, just 3 or 4 days later, just days later, it absolutely collapses in terms of the hours worked. What a terrible month for small business. And of course, after a shock, there are aftershocks and lingering effects. And we have yet to recover to the baseline of pre-COVID activity. So at the very top of this graph is 0%. This is from the same group. This is house source. 0%. So we're still at 20%, but look what happened September, December, January, which is terrible. We still are not recovered yet. This data is as early as April 1st of 2021. So it's just a month plus old. So we're still not there. We still have not yet recovered. And so I believe still, this is the age of there's reinvention, reincarnation, rejuvenation, renewal, recovery. We're all doing it. Every business everywhere is doing it, especially small businesses that are touching their customers face to face. In fact, my wife was saying that she went to a different dry cleaner to get her dry clean and some alterations for her jeans, because the other dry cleaner that we had gone to is gone. They went out of business. They just couldn't survive. It's terrible. But all businesses now that were fortunate enough to get through have to do all this. They have to reinvent themselves in a way to address new behaviors. Perhaps there's some reincarnation. There's a new life that the business tacks on. Definitely rejuvenate and renew, and most of all, importantly, recover. So that being said, kind of setting the stage and laying the foundation, the question is, great, Foster, thanks so much, but what do I do? Right? What do I do? All right, so now Act 2 is the plan of action. So now we know that the existing customers are so critical. Now we know that they're the base, you hold on to during the earthquake. We're going to now talk about using data to understand your customers, right? We'll talk about strategies and tactics, but most importantly, before that has to come an understanding. So here's your big idea. Deeply understand your customers so you can have a better relationship. It's not just about the transaction, right? Consumers don't look for transactions anymore, right? Consumers are looking for more than just a purchase and a good. They're looking for an experience. And most consumers, even though they don't know it or might not say it, a lot of them are looking for a relationship with the brands. It's true. Look, I teach brand strategy. I know people have relationships with the best brands. Everyone I call has a love mark. These are brands that you can't live without. Everyone's got one, guaranteed. I've taught my class 4 terms a year for now a decade. Everybody's got a love mark. And so what you want to do is figure out from a retention standpoint, how can you have a relationship with your customer? How do you have a better relationship, not just a transaction? So there's a data set that lives within your house file, plus understanding who your customers are as people, right? One of my students was actually mentioning this. She's a younger African-American woman, and she got a lot of ads from the Health and Human Services about depicting African-American people with babies and saying, make sure that you breastfeed, make sure you do this. And she was like, why am I getting these ads? This isn't my narrative. This isn't me. I might be on the data file, but they don't understand me as who I am as a person, right? So it has to do both, because especially with the new privacy laws coming out, I just did a webcast yesterday for the Performance Driven Marketing Institute about data privacy laws. There's absolutely federal legislation coming down the pike in the next couple of years, without a doubt. So consumers are going to have a different relationship with data privacy. So there's all that data that lives in the house file, but that's different than understanding as who the customers are as people, as humans, right? So understanding customers comes from blending these different kind of data sets. There's the analytics. We'll talk about a recency, frequency, monetary value model, the RFM model. And there's also the human data, right? The personas. So we're going to talk about how do you create these two approaches to blend the data together to have a better understanding of your customer so you can have a relationship with them. All right, we'll start with the database. Your own database is the golden vault of wonders. Absolutely true. It's a treasure trove. And the beautiful thing about your database is that it's yours, right? No one can come in. A competitor can't go into your database. It's absolutely yours. And so while Greenrope as a CRM and marketing automation system is a way to express and implement tactics on that database, your database is your database, right? And then again, I like to think of it not as just an Excel file or a database file. I like to think, or a SQL server, right? I like to think of it as the golden vault of wonders. And if you do that, you start thinking, gosh, what is in this treasure trove? What is here that is going to help my business grow? And what it can, sustain my business? All right. So then from your treasure trove, from the golden vault of wonders, you get RFM, CLV, CAC, CPLs, AOVs, RIS, BYOB, TJIT, all these things, right? all this marketing gobbledygook, right? It's just a marketing phrase that people talk about. So let's dive into these really quickly. If you know them, I apologize. If you don't know them, this is kind of what, we markety folky folk talk when we speak our different language. So RFMs, recency, frequency, and the monetary value. CLV is your customer lifetime value. The CAC is your customer acquisition costs. The CPL, that's your cost per lead. AOV, your average order value. ROAS is return on ad spend. Some people use ROI, which is really your return on investment. And that means that you have to take in mind the margin and the profitability and factor that in. Oftentimes, just for a marketing purpose, return on ad spend is just a simpler and cleaner way. Of course, BYOB is bringing on beverage, and TGIT, thank goodness, it's Thursday. It is Thursday today. So these are some of the marketing parlance that you'll hear. And each one of them is an important part to figure out how you retain those customers and the cost for retaining those customers. Let's dive in a little bit to RFM. Recency is how long ago the customer last ordered. Frequency, how many times the customer orders per year. And the monetary value, the value of this single transaction from the last purchase. You got to have these three. You got to know these three. These are very important pieces to figuring out from a retention standpoint what the patterns and who those customers are and what they're actually doing in terms of their monetary engagement with your business. So what I like to do is you shove them all into Excel, blah, blah, blah. And it looks like this, right? You get customers 1 through 20, different recencies, different frequencies, different revenues. And then at this point, what you start doing, you start turning the data into information that you can use for your business, right? Maybe you group it by thirds, right? Group by 33, top 3, middle 3, bottom 3, maybe organized by 2 or 5 patterns. In this one example for, just this little example, what's important for me and the relevant information is that about 90% of these folks have a frequency of 6 or 7 orders, right? This was sorted by revenue and then frequency. But to me, the storyline is not the fact that, oh, look, I've got this one customer, it's 9 frequency, they ordered $1,000, that's my customer. That's actually not the story that I'm reading. I'm reading a story of 7 and 6, right? 40% of these customers order 7 times, 40+%, another 35 to 40 order those 6 times. A lot of folks are in that 6 to 7 range. Maybe that's the pattern that is most important to me in my business. Maybe that's the story that I need to lean into. Yes, of course, I've got some outliers of 9 and 5, but the 7 and 6, okay, what is it about these customers that has them order 6 or 7 times? What is that magic number about? Right. So these are the ways in which you use that golden vault of wonders to start telling a story about your business and then re-engage those folks. So there's also this customer lifetime value. And this is a simple formula that's really important because it's not just a single order from your customer. Really, it's their lifetime value that makes the most impact on you, on your business. And it tells you how much a new customer is worth, right? That really helps in your retention strategies to understand that value, right? So it's the order transaction times the frequency times the years of loyalty. So super simple, $150 order value or AOV. 2 purchases per year, 3 years of ordering, $900 is your customer lifetime value. Again, I'm not talking about profitability or margins because it's going to be different for everybody. But $900 is your CLV. What a great number, right? If I understand my customer lifetime value from a retention standpoint, I've got a much better clarity as to how much I'm willing to spend to get a new customer. Because remember, with getting that new customer, as soon as you pull them in, they become that existing customer. They become that really valuable customer that's going to spend 10x more than when they were new. So the cost per acquisition is an important metric. And there's a lot of debate in the marketing world about that. My recommendation, or what I've seen, especially for smaller businesses, is combine all of your marketing expenses into a single number. And then you simply divide that by the number of new customers you generated from that spend. It seems oversimple, but I'm telling you, with all the way the channels work, from the variety of digital channels and different platforms, simplifying your cost per customer acquisition makes a lot of sense. So reason being is that there's so many channels as part of a customer journey. There's no single touch point that claims attribution, right? For print and digital, you can have awareness, various interest and engagement to send direct mail. They go to a website. There might be some postcard retargeting. There might be some digital retargeting. There might be finally a conversion or a purchase. So if you're a customer and you're seeing a billboard, and then maybe you go to the website because you heard something about it, and maybe you sign up for a form, or then you get a direct mail piece and you're like, oh, I'll check this out. And then after you go to the website, you get a postcard retargeting to you and you get a digital retargeting. Maybe you go to the landing page, maybe you go to the site and you're like, oh, I've got an email, I'll subscribe, I'll get 10% off. You finally buy. Well, who has claim to that? You would argue all have claim. All of these touch points have claim. And that's why when you look at the customer acquisition, yes, your customer is going to be touched by Facebook and they might click through on that, or they can see a display ad, or they may get their retargeting, or they may get their direct mail, they may get a radio and have a phone number. But all of these marketing touches add up. They all add to the place where I'm going to see this brand in lots of different places. And when I purchased, just as the easiest and the most convenient moment that I purchased. The other touches might have had more influence, but maybe the email is the easiest purchase, right? And the email people are like, yay, we win, we got that buy. And the website guy's like, hey, but I had the website, and they kind of went in. And the Google person's like, you know what, but they searched and they picked me up, right? So don't I get credit? Of course, they all get credit. That's why, to me, looking at the marketing spend, in this example, let's say it's 63K, and you get 215 new customers, that means my marketing cost per acquisition a little bit shy of $300. It simplifies it, because if you say, all right, my cost for customer acquisition is $300, and in that example, my customer lifetime value is $900, that means my return on ad spend for that marketing spend is 3.1. That means for every dollar I'm spending, I'm going to get $3 back in my marketing spend. And of course, you want to optimize and change and adjust because you want to drive that return on ad spend up. And again, this isn't return on investment, right? So if your margins are thin, that might be a terrible number for you. If your margins are solid and strong, that could be a great number for you. So that's why simplifying these numbers really help, because that way you say, all right, I know I need to get a new customer to support my existing ones, but now I have an understanding of what it takes for me to get a new customer. And now I apply those metrics and that spend and that idea to the activity to retain that customer. So understanding customers comes from blending the data. One is the RFM model. And the second way to do this is to write personas. So one of the great ways to do persona development is survey, right? Survey your customers and you ask them questions. Behavior, how they rate or value you, where you compare versus competitors. Surveys are fantastic ways to engage customers. You give them a little Starbucks card or something, and most folks, if they're engaged with your brand, they'll be willing to give you feedback, and you want to know more about them. Green Rope has fantastic survey tools built in, completely integrated within the CRM system. So it's a wonderful way to reach out, and it shouldn't cost much at all. If you want to give them a Starbucks gift card, you can. Or you can randomly select a winner, or you can just do it without a gift. But if the customers are there, ask them. The other way you can ask them is conducting phone interviews and asking open-ended questions. We did about 100 different interviews a couple of years ago and came up with some really key insights to help us adjust our business direction, because they kept on using the same word. Of course, these folks hadn't talked to one another, but the same words kept popping up. These code words about how they thought of our business. And so that was really helpful for us in terms of understanding our customers better. And conducting phone interviews, it just takes time and some good questioning. And a lot of folks are going to be willing, and you can pair it with the survey. So what we often do in the survey is we go through and we say, hey, would you be willing to have a 15 or 20 minute phone interview, and as a thank you gesture, we'll give you a Starbucks gift card. So it's not like you're giving a Starbucks gift card to hundreds of folks, you're giving them to a couple dozen, right? And for a couple $100 worth of Starbucks, you can get really good information from your customers about your brand. Also, one thing I like to do is the 5 words test. So you can do this with your employees, and from a list, select 5 words that describe how you want your brand to make people feel. Not what your brand does, but how you want your brand to make people feel, right? You want them to feel confident, special, successful, sexy, well-dressed, fashionable, trendy, comfortable. Like, what are these words? And then you ask your customers the same question, and then you try to line them up, right? If your customers are giving you similar words to how you want them to feel, you nailed it. If the customers are using different words or they're not feeling the way you want to feel, well, now you know, and you can make some adjustments. Folks are willing to do this. And I find that oftentimes, the best brands have 5 words that describe them really well. And what I say in my class, and I know to be true, is that you don't have to be a big brand to be a great brand. There are lots of great brands, which are smaller brands, but they're great because they have a perfect connection and alignment with their customers. And their customers feel about them the way they want their customers to feel about them, right? So one of the best examples I like for the 5 words test is, if you think of the market space of luxury handbags or just handbags, and I say, well, this handbag makes my wife feel girly, sophisticated, classy, smart, and fashionable. Give you a minute. Girly, sophisticated, classy, smart, and fashionable. It's a handbag. It's Kate Spade, right? It's not Louis Vuitton, because Louis Vuitton isn't girly. Kate Spade's girly. It's awesome. And so what you find is that and I do this exercise with my class, and it works every time, right? They talk about, use these 5 words, and they describe that brand. This is something you can do. You can figure out those words, and you can ask your customers how you make, how they feel about your brand, and then line them up. That way you can get a much better understanding of how to re-engage. And the link between all the data sources, of course, is the email address. And within Green Rope, which is awesome, you can add fields and attributes to the customer records, right? And you can do these things to build a better understanding of your customers, not just from the data and the money side, transaction side, but who they actually are. And I'll tell you where a lot of this is tried and true, and a lot of people may have forgotten it, but it was the building blocks for one of the greatest business success stories. So this guy is named Harvey Mackay. If you're a youngster or your 20s or 30s, you might not know about him, but us older folks know Harvey Mackay as the guy who wrote How to Swim with the Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive, right? In the era of phone calls and real manila file folders, not just digital ones, Harvey Mackay created an operation so every salesperson intimately knew their customer. He called it the Mackay 66. Oh, I got my quote wrong on the top. I'll have to fix that. It was still 1966, but he called it the Mackay 66. And what he said is that there were 66 pieces of information that he wanted his sales reps to fill out of every customer. You might not get all 66, but that was the goal. What was their birthday? Where did they vacation? What were their kids' names? What were the kids' ages and genders? What hobbies did they have? Did they have pets? What's the pet's name? What did they like to do on the weekends? What was something unique about their either hobbies or what they like to do in performing arts perspective that you could touch on just to get to know them? So his story is really simple. After being the #1 salesperson for the sexiest business of all, Quality Park Envelope Company, he bought an insolvent envelope manufacturer, and he decided he was going to do the things he wanted to do, and he grew it to 100 million in annual sales, and he provided employment for 500 folks. What a guy. Well, what he said was, most importantly, have a relationship with your customers. Get to know your customers, because if they only look at you from a transaction standpoint, they're going to look somewhere else for another transaction. But if they connect with you as a relationship, it's much harder to leave. And you build a rapport and a trust, and you grow together. And this guy is still active. He's 89 years old, and he burped out of Twitter on May 26th. And I love it, right? It was so, I couldn't believe it this morning when I was doing the touch-ups on this presentation. I was like, this is awesome. Thank you, Harvey. Quote, people don't care how much you know about them once they realize how much you care about them. Learn as much as you possibly can about your customers and suppliers. Build the relationships and then take them from a business level to a personal level, right? I love this guy. I saw him speak once, and he came out on stage, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's old man Winter. I'm not going to learn a darn thing from him. And he just knocked me out. What an empathetic, thinking, feeling person, and a remarkable salesperson, just a killer salesperson. But what he said is the McKay 66 works. It works. You understand your customers. And now we've got a lot of tools, something like Green Rope, to put all that data in. So do it and use it. And then give your personas names and descriptions, right? Get to know them as people. There's Jules. He's the considerer. He's 32, makes 105. He researches 5 to 8 websites. He clicks through emails. He might buy 2 or 3 times a year. He considers before he purchases. Then there's the responder, right? Charity. Charity's 28 years old, 75 a year. She responds to emails with purchases. She buys 4 to 6 times a year only when the discounts happen, when responding to discounts, right? That's when she shows up. All right, so you know she's a responder. We get that. And then the holdout, right? She gets 8 emails per year. She rarely responds, maybe 1 to 2 orders a year, only in seasonal sales. So you figure this out, right? You figure out your customers, you line them up to various quartiles or percentages or thirds. Give them some names, right? Understand them. So understand your customers, create that RFM model, and you write your personas. Because you can speak to your customers more intelligently and most importantly, more authentically, right? Throw them as people, help have the data, help you know them as people. And then you can speak to them intelligently and authentically. That's the goal. Good stuff. All right, we are Act 3. You guys are hanging in. I appreciate that. Now let's talk about some of the rewards of the tactics to engage the customers. We talked about understanding them, tools and tactics and methods of ways to understand them. Now let's apply that understanding to some of these tactics. So tactic number 1, send thank you notes. It's true. These things work. Print and direct mails, much higher brain engagement. For Modern Postcard, we do how print engages the brains for more sales. You can talk with the Green Rope folks about a link to that webinar, which is happening next month. But it's been proven. Print and direct mails, 35% stronger than social media and 49% stronger than email in terms of brain engagement. It just is. We like tactile stuff. Email is critical. Email is so important, but it's not the only thing. Sending a thank you note works, right? If you've got a team and you've got a reasonable number of customers that are coming through, just have a thank you note ready and just sign it, put them in the mail, send them out, or a thank you letter. That personal touch, it's easy to do. Have printed ride-alongs in shipped boxes. If you have anything shipped to customers, put a ride-along in there, put a message in there. So this is an example. No, don't do this. I got this from Ted Baker, which is a hat company. I was looking for various hats, right? And my family was like, you better try a bunch on because, this was happening during COVID and I couldn't try a lot on. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy a bunch of hats and return the ones I don't want. So I got this from Ted Baker, which is a high-end store. But this was all that came in, delivery note / invoice. I was like, that's it? Really? That's all you're going to send me, Ted Baker? You're not going to send me something cool about how to wear the hat or cool about people who have worn hats or anything interesting about your business or any note of thanks for your purchase? Nothing. Like, really? What a letdown, especially for something as carefully refined as this. So don't just have an invoice. That doesn't make the customer feel good at all. It's like receipt, gunk. Use it as an opportunity to further the relationship. Birthday messages, so easy. If you're not setting a mechanism for a birthday note, just do so by the end of next month. It's easy. It's easy. Just, birthday months are available. You ask your customers what their birthday month is. Or birth date. You don't need to know how old they are, but ask them for their birth date. Why not? Send them something. Doesn't cost much. A $5 Starbucks. How cool would that be if your customer says, oh my gosh, I just got a birthday note from this business. How fun, right? They'll remember you. It's a relationship. It shows that you're thinking about them. Regular Facebook posts. They encourage existing customers to connect as fans. Don't ask for a buy. Maybe show you as a business owner, show what you're doing, show what you care about. Use it for surveys. Easy way to get short, quick answers, right? And show your stories. Show fans about what you care about as a business and what you care about as a person. I'll get a little bit later on, talk about causes that are important to you, but show stories about life as you as human beings. I mentioned it again in my class. We don't buy from pickles or fire hydrants, and we don't sell, to pillows and muffins. We sell to people. We buy from people, right? There's a person behind every business, and there's a people creating the cultures for all these businesses. So show them who you are as people. Oh, you can also do customer journey mapping with your fantastic CRM and marketing automation system called Green Rope. Especially for existing customers. It's not just a lead mechanism and a lead generation mechanism. Use it for existing customers too. Even just sending them various notes, various messages that are important, that helps educate them, that moves them along. Build some journeys that are retention-oriented journeys that you're not even asking for a sale, that maybe you're just increasing value, helping them learn something new that they might not have learned before. All right, so let's talk about some of the key performance indicators of all these tactics that make the most sense. I'll call these the Magnificent 7 KPIs. I wouldn't normally call them the 7 Samurai KPIs, but Magnificent 7 seems to roll off the tongue a little bit better. And the Magnificent 7 was a movie which was derived from the 7 Samurai. So anyway, that's why you got your 7 Samurai. That's why you have your Magnificent 7. They are the Net Promoter Score. Net Promoter Score is where you ask customers to say, tell me how likely you are to recommend me to a friend or colleague, ranked from 0 to 10. You only count the ones that are 0 and 1 and 9 and 10. Everybody else you throw out, because those are the ones who hate you or the ones who love you. The ones in the middle, they're more ambivalent. And then you figure out what that delta is between the lovers and the haters, and that's your Net Promoter Score. Net profit, clearly, your top line revenue. New customers, that cost per acquisition we talked about, the lifetime value we talked about, and then the growth of the house file. How many people are you building into that house file that you can reach back to and retouch, right? So that's your 7 KPIs. All right, so now we're at the encore. We're going to wrap up, talk about these final tactics, how storytelling and a cause engages your fans to make them believers. So I mentioned earlier with the greatest retention strategy is to connect and have a relationship with your customer beyond the transaction. So let's talk about ways to do that. Firstly is storytelling. We'll do a whole presentation about that next month, where your customer is the hero. They're going to face a villain. You as business are the guide or the mentor. You lead them on a journey, and they undergo either a functional, emotional, or moral transformation. Telling that story to that existing customer is a great way to pull them in and to make them be a part of the story. Also, choose a cause that aligns with your business. I'm not here for any controversy. I'm here to show different businesses having different causes. Chick-fil-A has a pretty big cause. They've got a pretty big following that moves beyond just their chicken and their product. So does Lush. Lush chooses a cause that aligns with their business. They're staunch supporters of animal rights and LGBT equality. They have their naked products, no preservatives, etc. So they have their naked campaign where people just wear aprons, but they've got their cause and they lean into that. Everlane completely leaned in over the summer during the Black Lives Matter protests and marches and awareness. So they leaned in too. And the question is, you're like, oh, Foster, you're touching the third rail, but I'm not, because causes, whatever cause that is, if it aligns with your customers, it's an important thing, because being your most authentic self is the best way to retain your customers. Nike's a global brand. They're going to touch every person in the globe, right? So it's authentic for them to have a hijab for soccer players, right? They're just gonna. Because just be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. Again, people are going to see your business as a person. Just be yourself. Figure out that person and figure out your strengths and figure out the cause that makes the most sense for your business. Because most Gen Zs, which again are going to be the largest consumer group in 2026, are fine with linking causes and brands. These are some really important aspects about Gen Z. More than 75% of young people purchased or would consider purchasing a product from a brand to show support for the issue that the brand supports. Not about the product, not about the price. It's about the cause. It's about the reason. It's about the why. And more Gen Zs support businesses who align with their beliefs and causes. Members of Gen Z are also willing to take that support away too. More than 65% would stop purchasing or supporting a brand that didn't have the same values. It's just amazing. It's a brand new way of buying. It's a brand new consideration set for the largest consumer group in the next couple of years, right? So that's why it's so important to think about, how does cause become a retention strategy? Because it's not just about retention, it's about the relationships. It's about meaning. It's about belief, right? It's about the customer saying, hey, I'm going to have faith in you that you're going to hold me up when I take a leap, right? And one of the best brands to do this was REI. So the best retention strategy is to become a love mark for your customers. Don't know if you're familiar with the Opt Outside campaign, but REI decided that they were going to close their stores on Black Friday, completely close all their stores, and pay their employees for the day, and said, frickin' go outside, don't shop, go outside, opt outside. We don't have the time for it, but if you're ever interested, there's a marvelous marketing campaign they did with the hashtag opt outside. And it completely aligned with their existing customer base. REI has a connection and a community with their existing customers. And yes, of course, it probably got some new customers in too, but it reinforced to their existing customers why they choose REI and why they fall in love with REI and are part of the REI story. A wonderful retention strategy. Because as Simon Sinek says, we do business with people who believe what we believe. It's one of the greatest things you can do to retain your customers, is to figure out that belief. So the takeaway, now is the time to rethink your retention. Use surveys, interviews, and your house file data to understand your customer, and use that understanding to communicate in a more segmented and human way. I am Chris Foster, and that is my presentation, and I am back on video. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. So we have a question from Mark that says, is it possible to get a copy of the charts? So
Sure.
in regards to your slides, yeah?
Yeah, they're JPEGs. Are you talking about the small business charts? Yeah, that's fine. Melissa, we'll talk about it. I can just send some of the JPEGs to you.
Okay, great. Well, we'll also include the slides in the follow-up email that goes out to everybody. So, but if you want to include the actual charts, we can.
Yep.
That too, yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Are there any questions at all, or anyone from the chat have any questions on this?
Doesn't look like anybody's coming in just yet. You gave so much amazing information that you answered everybody's questions before they even had a chance to ask them.
Well,
yeah, Hannah asks, will this presentation recording be emailed after? Absolutely. It will also be posted on social media.
Yeah. I guess one question that I have for the folks remaining, and you can either answer through the chat, or we could probably, I could have probably done a poll. I'm curious as to which businesses out there are aligning with social causes or business causes in some capacity, and how that aligns with your business goals. I'd be curious about that if anyone's willing to share. If not, no problem, but it is something to think about.
Mark is asking, do a lot of these strategies apply to B2B as well as B2C?
Absolutely. Of course they do. I think that a lot of people say that, oh, it's in B2B, so you can't be touchy-feely. Got to tell you, though, B2B is human, right? I don't think that it was a mistake when, so a business like Salesforce started to build a lot of their collateral around a little character to make the character more human and friendly. And people buy from people in a business environment. For example, and you think, well, gosh, how could you have a social cause when you're in the B2B space? Well, for us in Modern Postcard, we want to support small business community and small business chambers of commerce, right? That's an important thing for us because we support those people who are supporting small businesses. So there's a way in which you can absolutely apply all of these to B2B. I don't think it quite matters whether it's B2B or B2C.
Nice. Lauren says, we do. Our mission is supporting local artists that create only eco-responsible artisan products. Very cool. And Lauren's actually asking, how do you recommend businesses choose causes to get behind? Do you recommend avoiding polarizing or controversial causes?
It's a wonderful question to ask. And I think that the answer is a couple of different flavors to it. One is, what is your tolerance as business and business owner, right? What's your comfort level? And I think most importantly, it has to be authentic, right? There are certain businesses, even in the B2B space, that really lean into certain causes. For example, we saw this with iStock Photo. iStock Photo really leaned into Black Lives Matter movements, and they did that in overt and a subtle way. One of the ways they did that is that they showed a lot of images of African Americans on their cover image for iStock Photo, be it illustrations or photography. Adobe leaned into, they were very clear, we support Black Lives Matter, and this is what we're doing, and this is how we are. Now, granted, Adobe, Photoshop, Illustrator, etc., is for a lot of artists, and they thought that might have been the right play, but Adobe also has a whole suite of analytics for marketing folks. So I think that the cause that you support, or the mission that you support, if it's broad-based, that's probably best. For example, if you're a business that allows dogs at work, if anyone still works at work anymore, and you want to support the Humane Society, great, makes a lot of sense. I think that for us at Modern Postcard, for example, we work with a lot of small businesses. We're going to support chambers of commerce, absolutely, right? Because that makes sense to our business model, and it aligns with who we serve. So I think that if you do some, digging and thinking about who your customers are, where they're coming from, that alignment is possible, even if it's in a B2B space.
Chris, I cannot thank you enough for coming in today. We are so excited to have you for 2 more webinars in the next 2 months. Very exciting. Thank you so, so much.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity, and hope everyone has a great Thursday and a great weekend.
Thank you again. Have a wonderful day.
All right. Bye-bye.